Hello and welcome to Keep Right On, a Birmingham City podcast brought to you from us here at Birmingham Live. I'm Brian Dick and I'm joined today not by our regular Blues reporter Alex Dickin, but by a face familiar to many of you, former Blues player George Friend. George had a playing career that spanned nearly 2 decades, included exactly, which I'll ask him about in a minute, 500 professional games. He scored 13 goals for 9 clubs, most of whose career was spent with Middlesbrough. However, there were, as I said, also 3 seasons at Birmingham City under Ita Karanka, Lee Bowyer and John Eustace before he moved on in the summer of 2023 to Bristol Rovers. He played his last professional match for Rovers at Burton Albion in February and immediately moved upstairs. Now a director of football at the Mem, he is no doubt keen to see his team perform well when they come to St Andrews on Saturday. George, thanks for joining us. Welcome. Keep right on. And is that all about right? I haven't accused you of anything you haven't done there.
No, it's a very glowing introduction. Thank you. It's better than most of the intros I get. So thank you, Brian.
Pleasure. As I said, thank you for joining us. How are you doing at the moment? As I say, director of football with Bristol Rovers. How's that all going?
Yeah, it's good. It's something I've been working towards for a very long time, and yeah, really pleased to be doing it and glad to be at a good forward-thinking and progressive club where hopefully I can implement a lot of what I want to put into what I see as a philosophy and things like that. So yeah, very excited, and even more excited to be returning to St Andrews, not in a playing capacity, but in a slightly different role.
Yeah, I don't suppose you'll get yourself on the pitch in any capacity. I know you're probably too modest and shy and retiring for that sort of thing. You won't be going on the pitch, will you, George, or accepting any form of commemoration or anything like that?
No one wants to see that, whether you're Rovers or Blues or any fan across football. Yeah, the playing days are definitely finished. That's for sure.
Yeah. So just start with the season. How are the gas going now? Just looking from the results of the outside in, it looks as though it's been a little bit uphill of late. 1 win since October, but the team are through to the 3rd round of the FA Cup against Ipswich. Just give us your assessment of where the team is at the moment, please, George.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I'd say it's more the manager's head coach point of call to talk about the team specifically. But for me to talk about where the club is, I think it is a very exciting time, as I alluded to. We've got new owners that have been in for just over a year. They want to build the infrastructure. They want to see young players coming in, assets for the club, but at the same time see that progression, not straight away, but over time, and keep building on that. And I'm delighted to be part of that and put my own stamp on it from a recruitment standpoint.
Yeah, again, from the outside looking in, George, I think the last time your name sort of hit the headlines was back in February, when quite a dramatic statement came out. It was George Friend has retired from playing with immediate effect. It must have been a bad game at Burton, George, if it came to that. And you obviously moved upstairs, as I said, to take on this director of football role. Can you shed any light on that process? And it did seem very dramatic from the outside looking in.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm full on in everything I do, and if I feel I can't contribute in one avenue, I like to do it in a different way, and that's what it came to at Bristol Rovers, and to effect it happened at Blues as well, because I had a lot of injuries at Blues. I think it was 52 appearances. You seem to have all the stats, so you can cross-check that. But yeah, I at Blues similarly, I entered a player-coach role there under John Eustace because I wanted to contribute more. I couldn't do it enough as a player. I played far fewer games that I'd like to have Blues, and that was predominantly down to my body, unfortunately, and then the rise of the team, thankfully. But I always want to contribute in anything I'm doing. So at Bristol Rovers, it's not like it was a split decision for everybody. It was something I've been working towards for probably the last decade. Back in Middlesbrough, I had a database of players while I was still playing in a recruitment capacity, because I knew that was the avenue I wanted to go down. And yeah, I doing various courses. I used to help individual managers, clubs, whatever, on a sort of freelance basis, unofficially in a recruitment capacity as well while I was playing. And I'm glad I did all that work because it enabled me to transition pretty quickly into something to help Bristol Rovers. And thankful to the board, the staff there. They've been really behind me and helped me with that transition as well.
So how was your first summer transfer window then, with the boot very much on the other foot? I guess, you saw a different side to agents over the summer, did you, than you'd previously maybe seen?
Yeah, it was challenging, but I think it's challenging for everyone at any level. It was enjoyable at times. It was hard at times. I had to draw on a lot of advice and connections in the game to get me through it. And the support from the board at Bristol Rovers was incredible as well. So I was lucky enough to work closely with the manager, who of course is a big part of any transfer window, and other staff as well involved at the club. So yeah, we got through it. We signed 16 players, which is quite a lot. And we're pleased. And we know it's a longer process when you're signing predominantly signing younger players. It's going to take a bit more time, but we're pleased and we feel we're in a good spot.
And presumably the overriding ethos with that in signing younger players is to sort of harvest a few assets, or maybe add some value and potentially you become a sustainable football club that way. Is that your mindset going into this role?
Of course, yeah. And for a team of younger players to play together for hopefully a number of years, and you've seen that in the past, there's clear evidence that when a group's together for more than a season, then there's a chance that they will become a better performing team because of that. And we wanted to move away from the classic League One model of giving a year or 2 years. We wanted to give 3-year deals to show our commitment to the players, but also to the club that we're trying to build something. And the Abdulatif Al Saeed, who's the vice president, recently did an interview and confirmed these things, whether that's with the infrastructure or the squad or even staff. It's all being built in a way to be sustainable, but also progress. And that's where I come in on my side, if I'm honest. And we talk about a game model, but probably more importantly, a whole club model where something can be built, whether it's a staff member, a player, the philosophy, the way we play, anything. Everyone's accountable to that. And again, like I say, the word sustainable and transition, progression, all these buzzwords, but that's what we're trying to do.
With all that mighty fine thinking, George, on August the 31st, when the transfer window had shut, did you go and lock yourself in a darkened room for 24 hours or 24 days? I guess that would have been an extremely stressful period, was it?
It was intense. Yeah, it was intense. But like I say, I was able to draw on people, whether that's my family, but also people within football, and they were really helpful. And it showed the good side of that football world, that people are supportive and want to help you. So look, I didn't take on the challenge thinking it would be easy, but I enjoy a challenge, and it certainly was that. And I'm sat here today talking to you, so ready for the next window, which is pretty imminent as well.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Obviously, Blues fans will be interested about your time at St Andrews. I think you joined the club. I think we were discussing off air. It was a difficult period, the sort of the COVID season. How do you, just overall, your 3 seasons, how do you look back at your time at St Andrews?
Yeah, you mentioned the COVID season. I found that particularly difficult in terms of there was no connection with the fans at all, like whether that was in the stadium or out the stadium because of all the restrictions. Even with the staff and the players, we were restricted because of social distancing and all these things. So that was difficult because my whole career and what I'm bringing into the job now is all about relationships, building strong relationships. And that's why I was quite pleased that it went beyond that COVID year, because it gave me a great chance to meet people, whether they were fans, but of course, people I work with every day, the staff, players, and build some good friendships there, as well as good working and professional relationships, which I've carried on, whether they're still at Blues or if they've moved on to pastures new. And there were some excellent people at the club and still are, and I'm thankful to have met them. In terms of the actual playing, like I said earlier, I probably didn't play as much as I wanted to, but that's my body. Blues probably signed me more at the twilight of my career, I'd say. So I did, but I do feel whether it's Aitor, Karanka, Lee Bowyer or John Eustace, I help contribute towards the culture or coaching or anything off the field as well, because as I said, I'm a full-on person commitment wise and give it everything in that capacity, similarly to the 50 odd times when you saw me on the pitch.
Yeah, indeed. So that first season, as you said, the COVID season with Karanka until about the March, and then Lee Bowyer came in, steadied the ship, and then the second season, I think, that first season, Blues ended up finishing 18th, and then the second season, which was Lee Bowyer's full season, again another relegation scrape, finished 20th that year, and then obviously Lee went and Lee was replaced by John in that summer. I think pre-season had even started, hadn't it, George, by the time John came in? In what was your final pre-season with Blues?
Yeah, that's right. And I have to say, John Eustace and Matt Gardner and Keith Downing were absolutely superb, and they gave me full access to the coaching side, which I did my coaching badges, which was really vital to do, even though I wanted to move into more of a recruitment role eventually. The insight they gave me and to see them working in the capacity they did was so insightful, and I still speak to them today, but they were a big part of that for me. They were excellent, really good.
What would you say would be the highlight of your Blues career? We've spoken about, the injuries and touched on the ownership and instability. What as I say, what would you say would be your most fond memory, whether it's a game or an experience or a conversation or something like that?
I think helping with the young players was a big part. Helping as a player coach was big, because that's not an easy role. It's very difficult because you're neither one or the other, but it's a hybrid role, isn't it? And that was my most enjoyable time, to be able to be allowed to do that. And thanks to Craig Gardner for making that happen with John Eustace as well. They put a lot of faith in me to do that, and I still speak to Guards now, who's been very helpful in the transition, because it's something he's been through himself. And yeah, I'd say probably that, and in a more joking way, the goal for the under-21s, I scored a goal at St Andrews, which I think went viral, mini viral. I don't know what the words. I'm not good at all that, but in viral enough. They managed to get back to me, and I'm not on any social media, so that was in a more of a joking way. That was quite funny because of my age and doing an acrobatic finish. But it was great, because I was part of playing with those younger players, and I've seen how they've got on and how they're getting on now, and it's all part of it as you grow older as a player and move into a role like I'm in now. Yeah,
indeed. Obviously, at that time, the off-field situation, whether you want to go into it too deeply or not, the off-field situation does affect what's happening on the field. We look now at the stability that Blues have from an ownership point of view, and seems odd when they were relegated and they're now in League One, but it just feels like the world of Birmingham City has just exploded. What do you think and feel when you see St Andrews full, you see investment in the first team, you see the ground improvements? How does that make you feel?
It's great for football in general. I still live in the area, just outside Solihull, so I can see it firsthand in that sense, by being relatively close to it. But like I mentioned before, I do have contacts still at the club, and it's great. It's what you want to see, whether it's at Birmingham or whether it's something that's going to be happening for Bristol Rovers when the infrastructure gets done there and that side of it. I think it can only benefit clubs when owners have the right intent, and I think that's really important. That's the important point. The intent's there, and you hope that success follows that. And looking back in history, that's normally what happens. So Yeah, it's great to see, and I'm really, really pleased. And obviously, we go there on Saturday, and we go there to enjoy it, but we go there to try and win. And I think that is something Blues will find as a challenge, and they've stepped up to it. That everyone sort of sees it as a bit of a final, but for us, I know our mentality. We want to go there, and it's another League One game for us to go and give it our all at St Andrews.
What have you made of the way Blues have sort of reinvented themselves with Chris Davis and a new squad in one summer? And I mean, the playing style, as you will know, is night and day from the way that, you know, the squads that you were involved in played. What have you made of the way they've embraced this challenge? And you know, make no mistake, the pressure to get back into the Championship is on. And, you know, everyone talks about this stay in League One only being one season.
Yeah, that's the pressure you have to deal with, in the same as if you're a small club trying to fight relegation. These are the challenges you face. Of course, it is impressive, and it comes with a lot of careful planning as well from a coaching perspective, but also behind the scenes as well, recruitment and their club model and game model and that side of it. So yeah, it's like I say, it's what you want to see, and certainly it's what you want to see in League One, because you have all these different challenges, whether it's a Wrexham, a Blues, a Bolton, the kind of clubs that you want League One to be about. And it's great to be part of that, if I'm honest. You'd much rather it that way and have that competition in there, but also not be intimidated and feel like you can strive and meet that as well.
Most people are expecting Blues to go back up, though. Would you be in that camp?
Yeah, I'd say so. From the financial outlay, that's what you would expect as well, but also the size of the club. But the pressures there, I've been there myself as a player when the pressure's there, and it's a different kind of pressure. But they look like they have enough. But who knows in football? I'm not a betting person, but I certainly hope come Saturday it's a Bristol Rovers win for sure.
Away with you, George. I know you know a couple of the current Blues players. Alex Cochrane, who unfortunately won't be there on Saturday. He picked up a foot injury at Barnsley last weekend. Am I right in thinking you spoke to Alex before he signed for Blues? Is that right?
Yeah, so we have the same agent, and it wasn't in a footballing capacity, if I'm honest. We both had a similar sort of move in terms of from the north to the Midlands, family concerns about moving and things like that. So it was actually more of a relaxed call with my wife, Alex, and his partner, who was pregnant at the time. So we were moving with two young kids and didn't know the area, and that went through that whole process, which he was going to have to go through. So yeah, I think from a footballing perspective, he's an excellent player. I didn't even need to get involved in that. He's doing brilliantly and is having a great career. But it was more to help with that kind of information that the fans probably don't see a player have to go through. But the whole transition of moving, and there was uncertainty around where they're going to live, and when your other half's pregnant, it creates more uncertainty. So it was that side of it really, and I could obviously attest to the fact that Birmingham's a good club, good place to live. And I'm not saying I'm the one that helped him sign for the club, but I hopefully made the transition slightly easier for him. And probably my wife more so, because she was the one that had to deal with it when I moved.
Yeah, he is having a fantastic season, or he was until he picked up this knock. Probably my candidate for player of the season so far, just because of his sheer consistency. He is a 7.5 out of 10. I know you love your player ratings, George. He's a 7.5, 8 out of 10 player every single week.
Yeah, and that's what you want from a fullback in particular. I think always. And yeah, he's an excellent signing, and because it's a similar position the same position I played most of my career, it's nice to see him doing well. You have more of a focus on that side of it.
Yeah, indeed. And another player that people will know you have at least some association with is Jay Stansfield, having played, I think I'm right in saying, played with Jay's dad, Adam, at Exeter. Is that right? And presumably you'll have come across Jay when he was a little boy, will you?
Yeah, that's right. And it's well documented. It's quite obviously a sad story in that sense, but I like to celebrate Jay's dad, Adam, as an amazing teammate, a great player. And I did meet Jay as a really young lad, but it kind of developed a relationship there where I thought I just wanted to do so well. And when I then found out he was at the academy at Exeter, then breaking through and all of this, it was great news. And I have to say, followed him all the way through the Fulham stuff, and then to be signing for Blues. I'm actually very proud of him, and I speak to him now and then, more via text and things, but always want to support him. And look, he obviously doesn't need a huge amount of support because he's doing everything brilliantly. And yeah, just really pleased to see how well he's doing. And of course, the Blues fans love him, and rightly so.
Yeah, indeed they do. I don't know how the dynamics of this work. If he turned up at training with his dad, would you see him with a ball, or did you ever see him play for when he was in Exeter Academy or anything like that? What I want from you, George, is for you to say, I saw Jay Stansfield as a 7-year-old and I knew he was going right to the Premier League. Are you able to give me that headline or not?
Probably not that headline. That wouldn't be fair, but yeah, he obviously did amazingly well all the way up through at Exeter, and then to move to Fulham. You've got to be a good player to move at the age he did. And then I think more recent history, to bang a goal in the top corner. I was actually on the pitch at the time when Fulham played Blues. I think it was in one of the cups. So I spoke to him after that game, and I got his shirt actually, which was quite a nice nostalgic thing for me. And I've still got the shirt here at home. And yeah, I didn't know at that point he'd be a Blues player one day, but it's nice it's worked out that way, and he's going to be incredibly important for the club going forward.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that was a League Cup game, wasn't it? And I think he was really young. He was only like 17 or something like that, wasn't he? And did he come on as sub? And
I could tell you then he would probably had a good chance if that's the story you're looking for. But that was when he's past most people in it in the top corner, that's quite good evidence that he was going to be a good player.
Yeah, what's he like as a person? Now, obviously, we can all look at the goals he's scoring and say, well, that young man can strike a football. What's he like as a person? He seems off the pitch to be fairly contained, and on the pitch, he's got a little bit of dog in him.
Yeah, and he's humble, and he's relatively quiet. When I've been in his company, I haven't shared a changing room with him, but you're right. When it gets on the pitch, he has that side to him, but also has a confidence in himself, and that's probably the most important thing, especially for a striker. And he shows that and delivers. He's had pressure on him coming in the way he has to Blues, but he's delivered, and credit to him for that, because that's not easy.
Going to ask about the price tag. From what you know of him, was that even anything in his mind, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. You'd have to speak to him or someone closer to on that. But I was never subject to such price tags as a early fullback, so I couldn't comment on that.
A buccaneering left back, but no doubt, George, when he scores 3 at the weekend, even a tiny part of you will be happy.
I don't think so. Not in the moment, no.
George, thank you very much for joining us. I hope everyone has enjoyed listening to George's recounting his time at Blues and his little bit of insider knowledge of some of the current Blues players. George, thank you very much. It's a keep right on from me, and I don't know if George is going to offer us a keep right on, giving his split loyalties now, are you?
No, I've given up the gas at the moment. Thank you.
Dear me, what a way to end. Got to end on the keep right on. Thanks everybody.